Life can be unfortunate for most, especially if one doesn't have a goal or a direction. In the opening scene of Out of the Blue, we see Connor, who's taking his morning jog and enjoying the fresh air. He reaches the beach and, to his surprise, comes across a beautiful woman, who gives him butterflies in his belly at first sight. He's a little taken aback when she strikes up a conversation, but plays along, and they settle into a very comfortable and flowing chat. She's impressed as Connor easily catches on that she's Latin, but equally surprised that he's a librarian. Connor becomes more interested in her as they keep up their conversation, and tries to find a way to keep in touch, even after finding out that the beach is a hiding place from her husband and family, meaning she's married. He tries to hold her back, saying she doesn't have to leave, but she still insists on leaving. However, she introduces herself as Marilyn. A few days later, Connor is working at the library, and Marilyn comes in with shades on. Seeing her, Connor jokes about her being a stalker, and they enter the familiar friendly atmosphere. She tries to play it off when he asks if she's okay, after seeing her in shades, but this doesn't deceive Connor, who sees the glaring bruise she tries to cover with her shades, and she gives in, admitting that she's not okay. He feels sorry when he finds out that he's partly at fault for holding her back a little with their conversation at the beach the other day. Connor is almost shocked out of his wits for fear of what Marilyn might be thinking, when she says she's looking for books about murder, but is relieved after she clarifies that it's just for reading. Disappointed that he won't be able to spend as much time with her as he'd like, as his boss keeps urgently calling for him to fill the empty desk, he quickly guides her to the crime section, showing the ones that will best suit her taste. About to leave, he's stopped by Marilyn, who expresses that she'd also like to spend all day talking to him, making him happy. At the desk, Connor checks out Marilyn's books, and she insists on tipping him when he's done. He accepts the tip, but is a little confused when she tells him not to spend it, as it seems to have more meaning than she let on. His confusion is cleared upon spreading the dollar, as he sees her number written on it. In the next scene, Jock, a police and parole officer, is seated at a table in a restaurant, and Connor, who has just entered, sits opposite him immediately, apologizing for his lateness. It seems as though Connor was recently released from jail. Officer Jock feels more offended as Connor tries to explain that he's late because of his job, and talks rudely in the process. Some men who are offended by his bad words lightly call him out for it, but this only gets Officer Jock riled up, and he practically insults them, knowing that they can't do anything since he's an officer, and embarrassing Connor in the process. After paying the bill, Connor meets Jock outside the restaurant. Officer Jock, who seems calmer than before, checks up on Connor, asking if he has any questions, and making sure he's not messing up his first few months of being free. Even though Officer Jock likes Connor, he warns him not to let him down or force his hand. Connor truly understands and appreciates this, sincerely thanking him, even as he's a little amused. In the next scene, Marilyn gets a call from Connor, who informs her that he wants to see her. While being careful of her family seated at the dining table, she sadly tells him it won't be possible, as she's with her stepdaughter, and they're both waiting for their father. However, she's happy to hear from Connor, and wants to see him again, even though she shouldn't. She promises to let him know when they can meet before ending the call, and Connor is disappointed that he can't meet her. At the park, the sheriff drives up to Connor immediately after the call, questioning his whereabouts. There seems to be tension between them, as he knows who Connor is, and warns him to be out of the park before 6. Connor is exasperated, and even annoyed to be facing this, after not being able to meet up with Marilyn. He lets out his frustration in his car after the sheriff leaves. In the next scene, Connor is arranging a section of the library with his co-worker Kim. Feeling generous, he tells Kim to go to arrange the poetry section, which is smaller, and she happily does. While Kim's putting away the remaining books in her hand, before going to the poetry section, she takes the opportunity to boldly ask Connor out, saying they should go for a run sometime, and Connor agrees, neatly going with the flow. Noticing the entranced look in Connor's eyes, Kim follows Connor downstairs and sees the two women who just walked in, with Marilyn being one of them. She's not happy that she has lost Connor's attention, and quickly draws it back to herself, saying that the other woman, Astrid, who's in her class, is not nice. Connor assures her that it's because she's pretty. He quickly sends her off to the poetry section, wanting to be the one to direct Marilyn. Connor meets up with the two ladies, Marilyn and her stepdaughter Astrid, and they explain what they want. Astrid pleads with Marilyn to help her pick out what she needs, as she's quite busy, and though Marilyn chides her, she agrees, and also reminds her of the dinner with her father, but this information doesn't sit well with Astrid, as she's grossed out by the prospect of her father. Well, it seems not only Marilyn dislikes her husband. Connor is happy that they are the only library in town, and that he can see Marilyn whenever she goes there. Marilyn looks much better, and he feels better seeing her good condition. He's happy to be able to spend some time with her, no matter how small it is. He guides her downstairs to the book she needs, after telling Kim to watch the desk. Downstairs, Connor picks out a book for her, and Marilyn, not caring about the book, thanks him for the sole fact that he's concerned and caring for her, and she kisses him. The kiss deepens as they share an intense make-out session, which leads to Marilyn pleasing Connor. When they are done, he can't seem to get his head around what just happened. Marilyn leaves after hearing Astrid call for her. In the next scene, Kim informs Connor about Astrid's relationship with an older rich man, Jared Clifton. The information doesn't affect Connor, but Kim misunderstands, thinking he likes Astrid. She assures him that he's a better person than Jared, even though he's made mistakes, but he doesn't believe her. In the next scene, Connor meets Marilyn in the park. Marilyn thought he wouldn't come, especially because of Kim, his younger co-worker, bringing to light her jealous side. Connor assures her that he likes her, and they kiss. Their kiss is intense, and leads to them making love on the beach. They cuddle after the intense session, finding comfort in each other's arms. Marilyn knows that it's impossible for their illicit relationship to last. Connor, on the other hand, believes that they can work it out if they get to know each other more. Marilyn sadly explains that the situation with her husband is bigger than it seems, as she's mostly trying to protect Astrid from her husband. This enraged Connor, who believes that the best way to go about this is to report it to the police. At this point, the conversation takes a turn Connor is not expecting. Scared at the idea of Marilyn finding out what he did, reluctantly he tells Marilyn about how he got into jail, and how he got back his life after 3 years, even though it's not perfect. But this doesn't scare her off, contrary to Connor's thoughts. With their rendezvous coming to an end, Connor wants to know when they can meet, as he already wants to see and spend more time with her. Marilyn assures him that she'll get back to him. That night in his house, Connor looks dejected as he looks at his phone, waiting for a message from Marilyn. A week passes before his phone rings during his morning jog. It is evident that she makes his day, from the smile that appears upon hearing her voice. The next day, Connor takes the ferry, joining Marilyn in another town, where they go to one of her husband's cottages. In the car, Connor notices that she's sad, even as she tries to cover it up. Knowing that she can't hide anything from him, she tells him about the argument she just had with her husband, deepening Connor's hatred for the man. At the cottage, the two please each other, making love everywhere they can. After the steaming session, they both lay down on the couch as Marilyn further explains her husband's character. She pacifies Connor when she sees how riled up he is, saying that she thinks of him to escape her reality. They feel attracted to each other, but can't fully act on it according to their desires, because of her husband. Marilyn suggests that he'll leave her, while Connor thinks he'll pass away, and when she assures him that long life is in his family line, he starts suggesting ways people could lose their lives, and Marilyn gives him a look. Unfortunately, their sweet time together comes to an end shortly, as they are both in Marilyn's car, ready to go back. In the car, when they are about to leave, Connor gets the feeling that they might not see each other again. Not wanting to let Marilyn go, he panics, even raising his voice a little as he expresses his distaste at the idea of not being with her. Marilyn raises her voice above his, and the sadness is evident in them, as she truly hopes that it won't be their last meeting. She puts out the possibility of him never seeing her again, before telling him to go. About 2 or 3 weeks have passed since Connor and Marilyn's disagreement in the car. In this scene, Connor and Kim are coming back from buying lunch, and are having a comfortable conversation when they're stopped by Astrid's voice. They both turn in that direction and see Marilyn, Astrid, and her boyfriend. The connection between Marilyn and Connor still seems a bit awkward. After catching up with Astrid, they are about to continue their journey to the library when Marilyn stops them, asking Connor a question about one of the first books she borrowed. Connor sends Kim off to the library with their lunch, staying back to answer Marilyn. She asks about the ending of the book he recommended for her, and he explains that though the ending is not necessarily a happy one, the couple gets away with it, and the husband passes away. They stare intensely at each other, both knowing what they mean. Could Marilyn be suggesting such a thing to happen? That evening, Connor gets a call from Marilyn while he's at their secret beach. She asks about his keys, but he still hasn't found them. Even through the phone, Connor can tell right away that something has happened with her husband again. He changes the topic abruptly as he follows their conversation from earlier that day. He explains that the end of the book didn't go well, as the couple turned on each other. Not wanting this to happen to them, he makes a promise to her that theirs will be forever, and she agrees before telling him she'll be at the cottage. They both seem obsessed with the idea of being together, and are ready to do anything to have their relationship. At the cottage the next afternoon, they finally agree. Connor and Marilyn talk about the strategy and plan for how the murder is going to take place. Marilyn informs him that she is going to Boston with Astrid for 2 days, if her husband allows it, and even tells him where her husband keeps his guns. She's worried and surprised at the seriousness with which Connor is taking the situation, but is also happy that she'll be free from her husband, and Connor even assures her that he can do anything for her. Connor wants to believe that she's in it for the money, but is only left angrier after discovering that she only gets a monthly stipend. Marilyn feels like he's having second thoughts, but he assures her that the plan is going to happen in 2 days. After the discussion, they relax in the water and even make love. In the car, Connor takes his sweet time, as he does not want to leave Marilyn's side. Even though he doesn't want to, he has to. It's hard for him as he tells her that they should keep their distance for a while, making sure the situation is clear, even if Marilyn is questioned. He tells her to tell whoever asks that their relationship is purely about work, and she agrees to lie for him. Marilyn is filled with worry in her eyes, but still doesn't change their plans. She informs Connor about the sunroof at the side of the house that doesn't lock, and he takes note of it. Connor is also gravely worried about her, as he tells her to buy burner phones for them to be in touch. He gives her the secret code books. The way Connor is talking scares Marilyn, and she almost jinxes their operation, but is stopped by Connor. They kiss, with faith in their hearts that they will be together after the whole operation, before Connor leaves. Several hours pass before Connor finally reaches his home. There, he meets Officer Jock and the sheriff waiting for him. The sheriff is about to break all hell loose, as he's already angry, but calms down with the help of Officer Jock. Jock asks Connor where he's been, and why he hasn't answered his calls. At first, Connor almost panics, but he successfully lies his way through their suspicions, saying that he was with his mother, watching a movie. The sheriff finds it hard to believe him, as he strongly believes that no good can come out of an ex-convict, but Officer Jock calms him down whenever he wants to act up. Jock warns him not to make them drive to find him unnecessarily, and Connor apologizes. Officer Jock reminds him about breakfast before they leave, and Connor enters his house, relieved. The D-Day Tuesday is finally here, and Connor is on a date with Kim, but he seems rather distracted, as he is constantly checking his phone. Uncomfortable with his being distracted, Kim points it out, but he tries to play it off. Kim admits that she knows that he does not like her the way she likes him, and she doesn't allow him to talk when he tries to brush it off. Not wanting to talk about them, Kim quickly changes the subject, wondering why he took her out for dinner instead of going on to run with her as planned. Connor doesn't give any particular reason, and changes the subject back to the previous one. He lies that he doesn't know how she feels, but he isn't able to deceive her. He finally admits that he cherishes their friendship, and that he wants it to remain that way. But this saddens Kim, who doesn't want to be only friends. She goes to the restroom to put a handle on her emotions. At midnight, Connor goes to Marilyn's house wearing a mask, ready to shoot her husband, but he's nowhere to be seen. He finds a gun under the man's pillow, just like Marilyn told him. As he's about to leave, he hears the door open, and a man enters the house while on the phone with someone. Connor follows him silently, but reveals himself by being loud after the man's call. He pursues the man upstairs, and they have a scuffle. Connor loses the upper hand as the man drags off his mask and pushes him to the floor. He tries to get off the floor, but is too late, as the man's gun is already pointed at him. As the man is about to shoot, he is hit in the head by another man in a mask, falling lifeless. Scared, Connor carries the gun to shoot the masked man, but it turns out to be Jared, Astrid's boyfriend. Connor, still pointing the gun at him, asks what he's doing at the house, and a scared Jared explains that he was there to just steal some stuff. He pleads with Connor to point the gun away from him, but Connor does not listen to him, and rather fires 2 shots at his chest. Surprised and frustrated with himself, Connor curses, angry with himself for shooting someone. He hurriedly looks for his mask, breaking some glasses on his way out. He sees himself in a mirror and notices some injuries, and this only infuriates him more. Some time passes after that, and Connor is seen seated on the couch in his house. He gets a call from Marilyn, who just wants to find out if he's doing all right. Connor reprimands her for calling him, even after he specifically told her not to, saying that it's the type of thing that gets someone caught. Even as he reprimands her, Connor still stays on the phone, as it seems unnecessary to be careful after they've already made a call. Connor, upon hearing that no one has contacted her, is glad to hear that he still has time to himself before he starts running away. He then inquires about the strange coincidence of him meeting Jared, her daughter's boyfriend, on the same night he was meant to carry out the operation on her husband. Marilyn feels offended that he would insinuate that she planned the whole thing. But Connor doesn't want to be too careful, as the coincidence seems too much of one to be true. Marilyn defends herself and explains that she knows nothing about this coincidence. She gets a little scared when she listens to Connor, who sounds a little deranged, explain that he shot Jared too, to mislead the investigation and make them believe that the two shot themselves in a scuffle. Marilyn is overwhelmed by this piece of information, as she can't even reply to Connor when he asks how her day went. Hearing Marilyn saying that what he did mattered calms Connor down, as he is more worried than he lets on. Worried for her, he warns her not to call him again, and to rather text if it's something she needs. He also prepares her mentally to lie low for the next few months, and expresses his love to her before cutting the call. On the other end, Marilyn is emotional, as she doesn't really want to part with him, but still tells him that she loves him before the call ends. The next day, Connor carries on with his life as normal, as he meets Officer Jock for breakfast. Officer Jock is really in a good mood upon seeing Connor waiting for him. Sitting down, he informs Connor of the passing of Jared, and to his relief his plan of using the two bodies as a distraction works, as even Officer Jock is convinced that the two men fought each other. Noticing something up with Connor, Officer Jock calmly tells him that he's there if he needs him, or if he has anything to say, but Connor brushes it off. Even when Officer Jock sees his injury, he just lies about it, so they go ahead to have their breakfast. The following Monday, Connor is at the library arranging books, but he doesn't seem to be himself, as he even looks sick. Connor keeps living his normal life from day to day, taking a jog through the beach, eating, getting ignored by Kim, and so on, but even at this, proper rest eludes him, as the worry still nags at the back of his mind. Another day has come, and Connor is lying down on his bed watching TV. He's almost dozing off, but shakes out his sleep from his eyes. The sleep fully leaves him when he sees a text from Marilyn saying books. He quickly gets up from the bed, carrying his already packed emergency bag, and leaves the house, but unfortunately for him, he sees Officer Jock, the sheriff, and the police outside. Officer Jock, who is going to meet him, is shocked to see him with a small bag. He asks Connor where he's going, and does not believe him when he says he's going for a run, as it's still quite early. Officer Jock calmly advises Connor to calm down and not do anything stupid, as they just want to question him. Unfortunately, Connor's fingerprints were found on one of the victims, and they deemed him an accomplice, but Connor still tries to deny this. Officer Jock calmly persuades him, and Connor gives in, agreeing to go with him. In the process of dropping his bag, he punches Officer Jock with his right hand, and makes a run for it, running faster than he has in a long time. Officer Jock calls for him, but he does not answer, running as the police scramble to their car in an attempt to engage in a hot pursuit, while others run after him on foot. He runs through his usual path, taking different turns to throw off the police officers on his tail. As he's running, he keeps checking his phone to see if there's any update from Marilyn, but sadly there's none. Connor's panting by the time he reaches the woods opposite the beach, where he and Marilyn spend time together. His frustrations come up, and he groans upon seeing Officer Jock and the rest of the police team and the sheriff in tow waiting for him. Officer Jock pleads with Connor to surrender, as the police are ready to shoot him down. The whole situation has Connor confused, as he doesn't understand how they found him immediately. He finds out from Officer Jock that they had a tip from a lady. Not wanting to think it is who he's suspecting, he chooses not to believe it. Officer Jock desperately tries to get him to lie down before they gun him down, but Connor doesn't want to, after hearing that his keychain is with the investigating team. Connor starts believing the possibility that Marilyn might be behind this, and is about to go down when his phone chimes with a message, probably from Marilyn. Hearing the vibration, Officer Jock desperately pleads with him not to answer the message. But as though blinded by love and forgetting the will to survive, Connor tries to take out his phone. But he's shot in his hand, and finally shot till he stops breathing, when he still tries to pick up the phone. Lying down on the grass facing the beach, as life leaves him, Connor sees Marilyn again, just like the first day he met her, but her body is in black and white, while her red swimsuit shines through it. He watches her till life leaves him. Officer Jock rushes to him, but by the time he gets there, Connor is already lifeless. One sunny afternoon, on a yacht in the middle of the sea, Astrid and Marilyn are together, finally having the time that they've always wanted alone since they met. This has been a planned work between the two ladies, who are lovers all along. Connor was just the pawn and sacrificial lamb that took the fall for their escape. Astrid asks about the book Connor recommended for Marilyn, but she says she doesn't know the end, as she didn't finish it. Astrid walks up to Marilyn and they kiss, happy that no one can come between them again.